Hello plant lovers and welcome back to my channel. Yes, I'm back. Thank you very much for all your patience and thank you to all those people who subscribed during the period that I was offline, not posting any videos. The move went well, the plants all arrived safely, no damages there, and we've been playing a little bit of musical chairs, acclimating the plants to their more specific needs around the place. I'm going to give you a quick tour of how my plants have been set up in my new place. Please remember, everything that I say is based on my personal opinions and my personal experiences. And don't forget that this is a no-frills channel. I don't edit. What you see is what you get. And I may as well say I have no IKEA cabinets, and I have no grow tents, and I have no intention of ever having them because they just take up for me too much room and they don't fit my interior design. So yeah, anyway, for those that are new, probably already know, my name is Bruno. I'm originally from Australia and I live in the northeast of Europe, in Lithuania. So we have very warm tropical summers and usually quite cold and full of snow winters. It's today is the very first day of the autumn where the temperature is around plus 18, 19 degrees Celsius. We've had an unusually warm autumn. It's been like 24, 25, up to 28 and no rain. And last night and today was the first day in September that we've actually had some rain. So bear with me. I'm going to probably split this video into part 1 and part 2 because there's a lot to cover and there's a lot I want to say. So we're going to do a tour of the 3 floors that I have in my townhouse. Remember that in this part of the world, the floors are numbered 1, 2, 3. If you're from the UK or Australia and some other countries, they would be numbered ground, first and second. So if I'm referring to the first floor, I'm talking about the ground floor, etc. So bear with me. I'm going down now to the first floor. Okay, we're now on the first floor, on the ground floor, and this is my kitchen dining room where I have set up some basically philodendrons mainly. What I did when I initially moved here, this is where I put all my Hoyas, but I realized that the terrace that's outside is a covered terrace, and at this time of the year, the sun shines through the windows, but only like the bottom third of the window. And I realized that the Hoyas weren't very happy. So I've put philodendrons that more or less prefer shade, that usually grow on the forest floor. What I have here is a philodendron imperial green. It's growing extremely well. This is my poor philodendron glorious. It has struggled no matter where I've grown it, what light conditions it had, whatever, it just hasn't done very well. But since it's been here, this particular leaf is very nice. It's bigger than the rest, and there's another one coming. There we have my philodendron, sometimes called golden goddess or Malay gold. It's a slow grower. The leaves start out yellow, then they sort of switch to lemon lime, and then the old leaves are, as you can see next to the pole, dark green. Slow growing and very slow to attach to the pole. Here I have philodendron fat boy. It is also an extremely slow growing, for me anyway, extremely slow growing. I've seen YouTube videos where they have beautiful big leaves, but I'll be patient. Over here is my philodendron imperial red. So I have the imperial green and an imperial red. And both of those philodendrons are clumping. They don't climb. They just form rosettes. And I do rotate them because the leaves are always turning to face the window. It does get bright, indirect light. But I think when the winter comes and the sun is lower in the sky, it's more likely that whenever the sun does shine, they're going to get a little bit more of direct winter sun. And here I have my Mendula pothos, also trying to encourage it to attach to the moss pole, but it's doing a bit slow at the moment compared to its other relatives that are upstairs. The only thing I have to really think about is that next to this big south-facing window is the door to go out into the terrace. Now, it's okay now, but I have to be very, very careful when winter comes and if it gets down to like -15, -20, and if I should want to go outside, the plants could receive cold blasts of very cold air. So I have to think about that because winter is approaching. Now we'll go up to the middle floor, the second floor. Just a moment. Okay, we're in the middle floor. This is actually my home office, and this particular window faces north and a little bit to the east. But this is my prop room, and it's also what I call my plant hospital. Nothing much to show you of interest there, but just to let you know that there is something against the north window. Oh, let's have a look. Right down here in my main living area is Benji having a little rest on the carpet. Now here in the corner of this room, let me just switch off this grow light for a moment. This is my philodendron lemon lime. It's growing, it is the furthest away from the southern facing window, but with the help of the grow light, it's growing very well. The tendrils had reached the floor, so I wrapped them around at the top, and it's beautiful. I love the colors. It's growing well and survived the transition very well. So let me just put the light back on. Sorry for the glare. Now, over here is my main plant wall, again up against a south-facing window. Some of these plants you may remember. This is my Anthurium hookeri cultivar. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's put out this one as its newest leaf. But as you can see, you know, all the leaves are quite big indeed. And it does like its place. It's sort of like 2 meters away from the south-facing window. Here we have my Aglaonema Silver Bay. It's liking this spot. I've moved it from a different spot up to here. It's sort of standing on a pedestal. Because on this pedestal, I used to have my Alocasia zebrina. Yeah, well, don't pay much attention to the fact that the leaves are, and the stems are leaning down, because I used to have this Alocasia up on that pedestal where the Silver Bay is now, and all the leaves bent down more towards the sun. But it is producing a new leaf, which is upright and, dare I use the word, erect. I did battle an infestation of spider mites, but they seem to be under control. I'm not going to show you all the plants that I have here, leave something for another time, but I do want to highlight, look at this Rhipsalis paradoxa. It's wonderful. Look, it's just going crazy here. And I think I can use this Rhipsalis paradoxa as a wig on Halloween. I've got other plants here. Don't want to really mention them right now, just the Hoyas that I have here. This is my Hoya leonaris. It's not really doing the best here. As you can see up here, these leaves are sort of pointing towards each other. And a leonaris, when it is healthy, the leaves sort of spread apart, as you can see here. So either this particular stem is not doing well, or there's other problems. What I actually have done with these shelving units is this particular top shelf was right at the top, but then I realized that the tops of the plants are not receiving any direct sunlight. So I've moved the shelf down a little bit so that at least the tops of the plant get more intense light than they did before. I also have here some Hoyas. Hoya Hush. Is it Hushkeliana? This I got day before yesterday. I'll explain why I ordered a second one, but I've cleaned them and potted them up in the Chooser pond. This, you will remember by my previous videos, I had this rescue plant of Hoya lacunosa silver, previously known as Eskimo, but we don't use that. And that in the pot I had these very silvery, beautiful leaves, and I had green growths with just a little bit of splash. Now, the original plant, which was actually my very first Hoya to bloom, and in fact, the flowering peduncle, which is my very first Hoya that bloomed, is somewhere here. And in fact, when they were rooting up in water, it flowered twice. So now I've separated the rooted propagation. So I have the silver in one hanging basket and the green with a tiny bit of splash in a different basket. The other couple of things I'd like to show you is, here is my philodendron white wizard. It's attached itself very nicely to the moss pole. And this is the newest leaf that it's pushing out. That's the leaf before. And as is usual, see, that size, and as it grows up, it gets bigger and bigger. So it's got a little bit more to go, and I'll then have to prop and chop. Then I have next to it my philodendron silver sword, which is extinct, I believe, in the wild. And we're only keeping it alive in our homes. And as you can see, as it grows up, the leaves have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So, it's about the size of my palm. And there's another new leaf coming up there. It's now due for a chop and prop. So I'm going to have to split this one in half. A little bit of sun stress for the older leaves, but I'm not really worried about that because the top leaves are all healthy and they're getting blasted by direct sun all day long. My Anthurian clarinervium has just put out this leaf here. Beautiful. And as you can see, there's another new leaf coming out there. And it has berries. And as you can see, they are plumping up. Okay, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 5 or 6 of them. They're plumping up. When they're ripe and red, I'll give them a new home and try to germinate them. Okay, one little surprise I want to show you. Guess what this plant is? Well, it's a birthday present I bought for myself. And yes, you guessed it. It's a Monstera Thai constellation. I just love it. It came with this leaf. It came with this leaf. It was pushing out this leaf, so it has a tiny little bit of damage here, but I'm not worried about it because I can see that further down there somewhere, it is going to be pushing out another new leaf. So, and I've planted it in Lechuza pond. So that's basically all I'm going to talk about here for this particular clip. And we're going to go now up onto the 3rd floor. We're up on the 3rd floor, and this is where I moved most of my Hoyas, and I will eventually move the Hoyas that are on the 2nd floor in the hanging baskets up here as well. But this is my guest bedroom, and with a big window facing south, so it gets the sun all day. And we're going to have a little talk about these Hoyas. Just a minute. Okay, so all of the Hoyas more or less are doing well, apart from one, and we'll get to that one. Let's start with this one. It's in pon. This is a Hoya. This is this Hoya papashonii, which I got from Hoya Passion in Poland in July of this year. I've taken it out of the prop box and put it in more or less a mixture of pon. And as you can see up here, it's got some new leaves coming out. A little bit of yellowing down below, but you know. Now, I watched Vermont Hoyas, and he's got quite a few very large plants of this particular species. And he grows them in 100% sphagnum moss. And he's had the best results ever on this particular Hoya. But what I've done is I've done a 50-50 mix of sphagnum moss and lechuza pon. And when I took it out of the prop box, yes, lovely root system. So I'm hopeful. I've got it a little bit further away from the window. It's more or less like 2 meters away from the window, and it is pushing out some new leaves, so it must like it. Don't worry about the indicators that show it's very low. There's some water in the base, because for the first 2-3 months, you have to water them from above. So I take the inner pot out, tip out the water that's in there, and I water it with my usual water that I have, a 3-litre bottle always ready just for Hoyas with some fertilizer for them. Even though the lechuza pon has some fertilizer in it, but I still give it some fertilizer. Now the next one is a little bit sad. This is my Hoya Bella in a variegated. It's been through one of these stages before. I just don't know. I think that up here against the southern facing window, it just got too much light. It's very limp. I've got hopes that it may survive, but maybe not. Time will tell, because it's not looking the best, and I'll start again. What can I do? Anyway, I want to tell you, I actually have ordered a Hoya from Hoya My Gosh in France, and it's called Hoya EPC-1015, which is a cross between a Hoya lambii and a Hoya vitellina. Apparently it's got very big globulous leaves, has beautifully scented, I think, yellow flowers. And what I read about this particular plant is that the best place to put it is no more than, let's use the old terminology, 3 feet from a southern face window. Well, it's going to be like 12 inches away from the window. Otherwise, it starts to lose its leaves. It just really needs a lot of sun. And hopefully that will be arriving maybe even tomorrow. I should hope it arrives by next week, because it's on its way from France. Now, here is this poor Hoya lacunosa that was a rescue plant. It's not really. This is the mother plant. It's not really doing well. This is the one that my very first Hoya to flower. The interesting thing is, I do see some fresh new leaves which look quite healthy, but it's all wrinkled and they're all a little bit limp. But even now, if I was to cut off these horrible sort of limpy stems and put them in water, I'm sure it will send out roots, because that's what's happened before. That's the Hoyas in the 2 pots that I showed you downstairs, the green version and the silvery version. But that's why I did the cuttings. That's my insurance policy. And the vine that had the, as I mentioned down below, had the peduncle, actually flowered twice while it was rooting. Wouldn't you know it? I was in a shopping mall yesterday, to go to the supermarket, and I went past the florist where I often pop in just to see what she has, and she had this lovely, lovely Hoya. Beautiful Hoya. It's got some nice texture on the leaves. You might be able to see there. I don't know the name of it. It is a no name, no ID. So, if you might hazard a guess as what it is, would be helpful. Of course, if it flowers for me, I might be able to narrow down what it is. I just thought it was just a lovely little plant for €6. Now, where can you get a Hoya like this for €6? But I did ask the florist, and she said, no, their suppliers, they're Hoyas, and they're just labelled Hoya on the pot. No species mentioned. So a little bit disappointing, because I'm going to have to play detective, but it's nice, healthy looking, so it's acclimating well. I mean, I've only had it for a day, so not much can go wrong in one day. Touch wood. Here is my Hoya verticulata, which I got as a free gift when I did a purchase from Hoya My Gosh. And it's propagated very well in my prop box, and it has, as you can see, sent out a new growth point. It still has the lovely original leaf, not doing much else, but in pon as well. So I'm trying out semi-hydro, but it's a lovely Hoya verticillata. Yes. And I got it in, when did I get it? July of this year. So it's facing south, getting a lot of sun. Here is another Hoya that I got as a gift, and this one is doing very, very well, I might say. I love these leaves. I love the veining on the leaves that it has. Reasonably thick leaves, not showing any signs of sun stress because it is getting a lot of sun. Now, it's done one loop around, and now I've encouraged it to go up to the next level up. And this, the label said that it was a Hoya pottsii from Coranda Creek, found in Australia. But we know, I am L0039, but as we know, there is no such species as Hoya pottsii. If it's from Australia, I think, if I'm not wrong, it should be classified as a Hoya nicholsonii. But I got this one from Hoya Fixation from Finland as a gift with a purchase that I made in April this year. And it is growing absolutely well. It's funny how the freebies are growing well, because we're going to mention that in a minute. But, beautiful. And it loves this pole. Here we are, Hoya australis Lisa. It's growing. The flowers yesterday were more intense in their pinky color, but now they're switching back, fading away to the inner variegated. But I like it. This is the very first original Hoya Lisa cutting that's still alive. I had 2 cuttings, and they both got root rot. I only managed to save one of them, and this is a bit of a cheat pot because I bought locally a more advanced rooted cutting. So trying to reduce a loss because, it is an Australian Hoya, and I would like to have something from Australia growing. But this is from November 2022, last year. So, yep, it's growing. It likes it. Getting lots of sun. It's doing well. Oh. Here we have another Hoya that has started to do better up here on the 3rd floor. This is the Hoya cultivar Jennifer, which I got in April this year. And not sure if it was Miro from Basie Plants, but somewhere there was a recommendation that it be put on a frame. And yes, it's got a new leaf coming out here, and there's another one just forming at the back. So yes, growing well. And there is a new growth point here, right there. But I think it's waiting for Christmas. But okay, I have to check the watering today after I film this. So, Hoya Jennifer. Here is my Hoya Sunrise, which I got on the 30th of June this year, just not long before I moved. It's getting a lot of sun, a lot of bright light when there's no sunshine, but I'm not seeing any sun and not seeing any sun stressing yet. But these two leaves are new, these two leaves are new, this leaf here is new. Just showed you, these two are new, these two are new. And so, you know, oh, maybe there's something else. Nope. But yeah, it's growing well, but not stressing. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe when it gets really going, it might look more sun-stressed, but alive and well. Here's a Hoya lobii, which I bought as a rooted cutting locally from someone that lives 100 kilometers away from where I am, and even delivered it to me. But at the moment it's in pon. Got it in July of this year, but it's not doing anything. It's just sitting there, it's alive. The roots are okay. It's the only thing with pon, and especially if we're talking about lechuza pots, is I can't see what the roots are doing because the pots are black. And I think it would be really great if lechuza would give us a choice whether we would like to have those plant pots in black or in see-through. But lobii, it's alive. It will come good eventually because its cousins are doing okay. Here's my Hoya calistophylla, which I've been struggling with ever since the first day I ever had it. But, dear friends, and thank you very much to my subscriber who suggested that I put it in full sun. Now, I did follow that advice, and this little cutting pushed out this cutting here pushed out this leaf. This cutting here, second one, pushed out this leaf. And there is another little cutting here, which is just pushing out the tiniest of leaves, and you won't even see it. So very good advice, and thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. And it's on the shelf, and it's on the front row, so it gets a maximum light. Sorry, moving backwards and forwards. Now I've got this Hoya from Hoya Passion in Poland on the 4th of July. It's called Hoya species NS12-323 micro dwarf. It is tiny. Look at that. It is tiny. Oh, there's my little fingernail. It's smaller than my smallest fingernail. It has 5 new leaves, and Just see a growth point. Tiny little bit, I can't really know how to show you this, but tiny little bit of sun stress. But yeah, I saw Miro from Basic Plants with this particular one. And I thought, I'm going to give it a go. It's a bit of a challenge because nobody yet has had this particular species flower for them. Hey, it would be great to be the first one to have it to flower. But anyway, it's in pond. It's doing well. Let's see. Let's wait and see. Here we have a Hoya that I pinched from my cousin's place over Easter, and it's just going crazy. I took 2 cuttings, one for myself, propagated it, and one for her daughter. And she's got it growing very high up on the side of a north-facing window, and I don't know, it's actually leaning down, growing down and cascading down a couple of meters. And it's got a tiny little bit of splash, which you can see here. I really think it's a Hoya carnosa. It's not a pubicalyx because the leaves are too wide. Pubicalyx is a bit narrower leaves. And on this particular one, you can see a little bit of the shadow there. You can see the veins on this particular Hoya, which you can't see any veins on a pubicalyx. So yes, I mean, it's growing amazingly. And I'm now have to make it, and it is going to sprout more leaves along this vine. I can see them pushing out. But what do? Do I let it hang down as a trailing plant, or do I give it a trellis to grow up? Don't know. Anyway, we'll make the decision one day. While it's growing and it's not bothering all the other Hoyas, I'll keep it the way it is. Now, one more Hoya from this shelf. Is my Hoya Chinghungensis, yep, from 12th of April 2023, this year. Okay. Growing nicely. It's actually putting out, I've got to lift this up. See? It has a new growth point just there. Where are you? See? Just there. Has a new growth point sprouting. I did buy a third unrooted cutting. This little stick here is the result. It had produced lovely roots in the prop box, but it's not completely dead. Just this very top part is brown, probably will fall off, but the little bit of stem that's still there is still nice and green. So you never know, it might come good. But yes, it does like the spot up here. It's on the second shelf, not the top one, but it's growing well. I have a surprise, Hoya, but I ain't gonna show you now. Let me just move the camera over here because this is a bit too big to lift up. So let's switch. Here we go. This is my Hoya pubicalyx, right? I've got 2 of these bamboo arches, which I've joined in the middle to make a dome. It's growing extremely well. It's lovely. It's healthy. It has new leaves coming out. Everything is fine. No flowers though. Anyway, yeah, it's, I don't know, almost a meter tall. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It takes up the biggest amount of space here by this south-facing window. Here are its children. I took 2 cuttings of that Hoya pubicalyx. One of the cuttings is a real goer. It's really growing extremely well. And the second cutting, it's waiting. I don't know. Christmas, maybe? I don't know. It's waiting for something. Don't know why. Now, here's my Hoya Imperial Red. Now, I've actually repotted it into a big pot. So I bought 2 hanging pots, Lechuza hanging pots, and I was a little bit surprised by the size of them. They're big, and if this is hanging somewhere, it is very, very heavy, difficult to lift with one hand. If it falls from the hanging, wherever it's going to hang, it could kill someone, it's so heavy. So I'm not using it as a hanging pot for the time being. I have just repotted the Imperialis Red into a bigger pot because it already had a very vigorous root system, and why not go big? Because it will need a big pot eventually. It is producing new leaves, and more new leaves. See, growth point is alive and well. It likes it here by this south-facing window. Now, before I show you my surprise, which you probably already guessed what it is, but if you haven't, stick around. Now, go back to... Now, remember I said... Now, the Hoya huschkeliana that I got down there on the second floor, on the middle floor, that one came 2-3 days ago from Italy. And in fact, they also sent me a free plant, a gift plant. I thought, I think they'd made a mistake with my order. And it had quite a nice sized, very healthy, potted aspidistra with a tiny little bit of variegation. I appreciate that very much. I think the company's called We Love Tropicals, yeah, in Italy. So very pleased to get a little free gift because as I've already mentioned twice today, these freebies that they sometimes put in with your order, they seem to grow better than the ones that you have to pay money for. Anyway, that's my experience. Now, sometimes things go wrong. Let me just take the top off this cloche. And in this thing, don't be surprised because, don't be shocked. Don't start crying. It's a very sad sight. Look at that. See that little stick in there? That is my original rooted cutting of Hoya huschkeliana. Don't get me wrong. I bought this from Hoya, my gosh. It arrived in absolutely tip-top excellent condition. And I put the rooted cutting with its little pot in my prop box. And 3 or 4 days later, I noticed that most of the petioles, the bits that the leaves are attached to, little bits, were all turning brown. And 3 or 4 days later, one by one, all the leaves dropped off. And now all I have is a stick in a pot. But there are little swellings, and the very bottom half of the stick is still green. So you never know. You never know. So, yin and yang, black and white, yes and no, hot and cold. With failures, there are successes. And wouldn't you know it, you've probably already guessed. My Hoya multiflora, alta variegated. Where's some nice variegation? Look, you can see it's just along the very, very edges there. out of irrigation. But look, it is flowering. I just love this plant. Just look at that. Look at that. These shooting stars. I might have to get the other cultivar where the backs of these shooting stars are more pronounced orange. These are just barely yellow, lime yellow. So, and this is peduncle number 10. At every single stage of its growth, and it's growing extremely well, it sent out a peduncle. And either the peduncle went yellow and dropped off, or I could see it producing tiny little buds, but it would blast those buds, and then the peduncle would go yellow and drop off. So this is peduncle number 9. Number 10. Oh, it's here. Peduncle number 10. So number 10 was the lucky number. And we can see here at the top, look at that. There's peduncle number 11. And it is also heading, I hope, towards flowering. Because all the previous, not counting number 10, but numbers 1 to 9, never ever reached this stage. They blasted their buds while they were still tiny. So I'm really hopeful that this one is going to flower as well. It's also in row number 1 by the window, so it gets a lot of light. And this is my favorite one. Because it must be called Hoya multiflora for some reason, because multiflora just means many flowers. So yes, so I watched with envy as people uploaded the videos of their multifloras in flower, and I thought, mine is never flowering. It just gets rid of its buds, blasts them away. But yes, and I can't really tell you, does it have a scent? Can't smell anything. Anyway, so this is my very second Hoya that I've ever got to flower in my life. Not that I've ever kept Hoyas before. Seem to be catching the bug for Hoyas because I keep seeing clips with interesting ones. And just remember, yes, I have humidifiers, I have grow lights, but I haven't used the grow lights, most of the grow lights or the humidifiers this summer, because the humidity inside, if you open up a window, is usually sort of around between 50 and 55, and that will do. I did see a clip of what someone claimed to be a Hoya multiflora, but it had quite thick, succulent type leaves, and that's not the leaves of a multiflora. Multiflora it's got quite thin leaves, so it does dry out quickly. So that's basically it, my dear friends. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this quick tour. I will produce video number 2 to update because I've been doing some plant-related shopping, and I'll explain to you what I've done and why I've done it. But once again, thank you all for your patience. Took 5 weeks. Did I mention it? Maybe not. It took 5 weeks after moving in for my cable TV and internet services to be transferred to my new address. Well, maybe I've gone back in time, because I'm pretty sure it's the 21st century. And what we call the digital age, I don't think it should take 5 weeks for an existing customer's services to be transferred to a new address. Anyway, that's beside the point. Yes, and it also took me 2 weeks at least to empty out all the boxes, and like the plants, and we'll use the North American word again, I am still acclimating to my surroundings, because I keep changing the contents of drawers and shelves, and I keep changing bits and pieces of interior decor, because as I get used to it, I find, oh no, I don't like that one there, I have to move it. It's the same with all these plants. Keep watching them, and I see that, no, you don't quite like it there. So I move it away from the window, towards the window, water it a little bit more, water it a bit less, but I have to be careful. with watering a little bit more, because heavy-handed watering could end up in root rot. And that's mainly one of the reasons why I've gone to pon. But thank you for being my subscribers. So if you've watched this video and you're not a subscriber, please press subscribe and please press like. It just gives me incentive to keep going on this plant journey. So I'm going to get more Hoyas. I can see that. And I'm already thinking of some new shelving units for the Hoyas, because I want to be able to hang them, the 3 hanging ones that I've... Oh, hey, I missed something to show you. Yes, just a minute. Just a minute. Let's here we go. Look, my Hoya Crimson Princess. Yes. Lovely pink. It's the princess because the variegation is on the inside. If it was a Crimson Queen, the variegation would be on the edges, because as they all say, the queen wears the crown. This is my Hoya Carrii. No growth points whatsoever, but it's producing masses of leaves. So, if it's producing lots of leaves, means it's producing lots of chlorophyll. So maybe sooner or later, I will see a growth point and something will happen. And my Hoya Waiatii, well, it's looking it looks good on the video, but in real life, to me, it's looking, it was growing in a south-facing window, right next to that window in my old apartment, and it put out lots and lots and lots of vines, so I cut all the long ones off, and it's not looking the best, but, I propped them up, and I just repotted them the other day. So there's my insurance policy, but I don't know. Maybe it is also acclimating like I am acclimating. Anyway, that's it, my dear friends. A new video coming up within the next couple of days on certain plant purchases, things that went right, things that went wrong, and why I did what I did with some plant purchases. So thank you very much. I'm so glad to be back on air, and looking forward to posting my next video. Okay? Subscribe and like. It helps me a lot. And thank you very much. Until next time. Ciao.